Hey, this is Kat of Kattalestv, and this is the second installment of bedtime stories. If you hear some noise, my computer is rendering right now, so it's making a lot of noise. I need another laptop before this one explodes, but that's neither here nor there. I want to do a quick video in regards to a couple of issues that bug the hell out of me in regards to the UFC. I see a lot of there's always been a lot of misogyny in the UFC. It's obvious. You got a bunch of guys with a lot of testosterone, and they like being bullies, and they like being macho. I don't work for Fox. I don't work for TMZ. I'm an independent videographer, photographer, journalist, writer, and I have a very diverse background. But one of the things that I've always been very serious about is culture, finding solutions to problems like racism, trying to figure out different ways to communicate with people so we can resolve conflict. And one of the things that I've been noticing for a very long time is that Joe Rogan, who's extremely talented, with calling UFC fights and doing his UFC gig, and he's an expert on mixed martial arts. I just find him annoying in regards to how he handles racism. Now, I know he doesn't care about other people's feelings, and the kind of people he has on his show, he pretty much goes along with whatever the guys say, and he doesn't have that many women on there that can actually not be interrupted by him and say their piece and not be attacked by him. So, one of the things I noticed recently, I normally don't even watch him anymore, but I did watch a clip, and I shouldn't have done it, and it was with this guy who was in a red shirt talking about Haiti and kind of justifying Trump's comments about Haiti being a shithole country. What this guy didn't know was Trump didn't just say, he wasn't talking just about Haiti. He was talking about countries in Africa. He was mainly talking about deciding which immigrants could come in. And he was like, oh, I don't want those kind of people. They're from shithole countries. And he's probably talking about people of color. But these guys were talking and kind of justifying Trump's statement, saying, well, it is a shithole country. Talking just about Haiti, not realizing the whole context of what actually happened. And if I was gonna tweet something on their page, but I was like, it's a waste of time because he doesn't really care. Rogan has had people like Milo on his show, a bunch of chauvinist bastards, racists, misogynists, assholes, and they sit on a show and they commiserate with each other and they make themselves feel like they're really, really intelligent and they're really doing some positive things. I know he makes 10 times, 20,000 times more money than I do, but what he's promoted most of his career is stuff like, what was that show he did where people had to debase themselves to make money? Fear Factor. So, macho reality show crap. And the other thing you have to understand is, look what America is right now in the rest of the world, how we're seen. We look like fools. Everything, if you know anything about like strategy, warfare strategy, psychological warfare, martial arts, getting in your opponent's head, what's happening in America is we're being divided and we're being conquered. So all the racism, all the misogyny, all the left, the right, all these little things is a very brilliant strategy to destroy our connectivity. And people like Joe, who makes so much money, are similar to people like Sean Hannity, where Sean Hannity makes a lot of money, like $29 million a year, to lie to people and to promote racial division and to stoke fears. He doesn't care. He's making so much money. He can lie and promote the president of golf and cheeseburgers, as I like to call him. He can promote his agenda because he's getting paid to do it. He can go meet with Assange in that embassy he's in and discuss tactics and, exchange information and work as a conduit to help dismantle democracy, to be factual. And there's bigger issues at hand. So let's just say we're on the same team. I used to play basketball. I used to do sports, whatever. So let's say I'm on the same team as you, Joe Rogan, and you're supposed to pass the ball to me. But you got an attitude, and you think you're better than I am, and you think you're a know-it-all. But we're on the same team. And we're playing a big game, a really important game, a championship. But our conflict is making it so our team loses. Okay, let me expand this and make it really clear for you guys that can't jump from point A to point B. What I'm trying to say is, we, the people who live in America, we're under attack right now. Psychologically, mentally, in a bunch of different ways, whether you think of it or not. Our democracy is on a tipping point, literally. I mean, Trump is trying to discredit the FBI, and the FBI is not perfect by any means. But when you're a leader, you have to lead, and the organizations and the separations of the three branches of government, it has to be clear. And if you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, that means your number one priority is the Americans, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and keeping the laws of the land respected. And what I see with Trump is everything he does is to dismantle it, because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I mean, it reminds me of a lot of men or people that I dealt with who try to act like they know more than they do. So they do a lot of tap dancing and a lot of yelling and posturing to make the other person feel insecure when it's actually that person who's doesn't know shit. I've seen that so many times. Now I just smile and move on. But like I said, it really annoys me, the kind of people that Joe has on his show who are so misogynistic. And then they try to say they're not misogynistic and they're so racist. But then they say they're not racist, but they don't even listen to the whole context. In regards to that Haiti comment about Joe and his guests joking about, well, Haiti is a shithole place. Haiti has issues, poverty, and all kinds of things. But it also has a very interesting history of being one of the first places to fight against slavery and having a bunch of people of color beating a major army and being free. And they also were in debt because they had to borrow money from another country to pay for ammunition and stuff like that. And that debt kept going and going and going. That's a whole nother story. And if you took the time, you could research that. Yes, there are people of color who've ripped off people of color. And yes, there are governments run by mostly Caucasians that are ripped off and abused not only Haiti, but most other countries for the resources. Now, Africa has multiple countries in it, and Africa is rich in resources. So your cell phones, your electronics, most of those minerals and the metals come from places where people of color live. Not only you have oil, you have rubber, you have all kinds of things. So a lot of times different countries are exploited because of what they have. And then it's easy for racists to say, look at those shithole countries. Now, fast forward to UFC, what was it, 220, when I went to the Boston, the TD Garden to watch the event. And then afterwards, you know, people online were talking about when Steppy, am I saying his name right? When he beat the other fighter, and they were like, oh, on Twitter, I'm so glad, you know, he beat that guy because, you know, that guy was talking about our president. And I was like, who the hell wrote this fucking tweet? What an idiot. The other fighter was talking about being from an African country and having the President of the United States make fun of where he came from. Any man, any woman that has self-respect would be offended by that. And I said on Twitter, most of you guys would fight over a cheeseburger. If someone insulted you, you punch them in the face. But it is all right to call someone out on their racism. And when those people say stupid shit like, oh, you know, you're an athlete, you shouldn't talk or you shouldn't protest, that makes no sense to me. You're going to tell me Muhammad Ali wasn't an athlete, he wasn't a man. He changed his name in the 60s when, I got the right decade, right? I believe he changed his name in the 60s. But anyway, he changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali when he switched over to being a Muslim. So the whole thing is that he was punished for not wanting to go to Vietnam War, and he held his ground. There is a lot of people online that aren't who they say they are, and they're manipulating the tares in our society to stroke more division. And they want us to fight against each other. The black, the white, the female, the male, the right, the left, the Republican versus Democrat. And, you know, these rich people that have all these shows and these sponsors and stuff, it's all fun for them because it doesn't matter. They make money. They're not the ones in the streets. They're not the ones suffering, losing their job while the people that run the corporations are making all the money. So I know Joe Rogan doesn't give a fuck about me. But I find what he does tiring, and the people he invites on his show, like Milos and all these men that are just fucking racist, misogynist weirdos. And Joe just bobbles his head and like, yeah. He's a freaking meathead. I don't know. I don't know if it's hits to the head or what. Or just an inbrain racism. And I believe what's also interesting, if I'm not mistaken, Joe Rogan's from Boston too, and so is Dana White. And I went to Catholic school when I was a kid in Boston, so I left. I mean, I went to another state, but I never really cared for Boston in the sense of the racial division. I always felt it was very stratified. I didn't like that. I like people that are more metropolitan from all over the world. Like, I love New York. I love Paris. I've been in different places of the world where, you know, you got multiculturalism and people are cool and you see people of all different shapes and sizes and everybody's cool. I like that. Boston has a lot of people that are still in their little pockets, and I'm not that kind of person. So, you know, this place isn't necessarily for me, unless I found a place that worked. But anyway, getting back to the point, sometimes people are from certain parts, and those parts reflect in their mindset. They never grow out of that racism, that misogyny. So I just want to let you guys know, I do not work for Fox. I'm an independent photographer, videographer, reporter, journalist, troublemaker. I don't, even though a lot of people love my videos and a lot of people have seen my Stallone videos and Mickey Rourke videos, and I walk around in Beverly Hills sometimes and people from all over the world come up to me and say, oh, I love your videos, your cat, blah, blah, blah. And I love that. But what people don't realize is that I'm independent. I've struggled over the last several years of getting paid by my agents. There's been multiple agencies that I worked for, and most of them have ripped photographers off. Not just me, but other photographers. It's a very strange business. I've been trying to learn as much as I can and then move on. But getting back to like the UFC, even though I've interviewed or I've done videos with Conor McGregor and Dana White several times and GSP several times, and Luke Rockhold I chatted with, and a bunch of other, I think a few, I don't know if I've got anybody else really. But regardless of which, and regardless of all those videos and the other videos where I'm talking about UFC, I've never went to a UFC event as a journalist, whatever, or getting a press pass. And one of the things that we found out, my agency, is that when I shoot pictures of Dana and some of these UFC fighters, the pictures don't sell because it's a very strange way of how they market those shots. And again, I don't work for Fox, and I do not work for TMZ. And what I was told too is that there's certain photo agencies that are allowed to shoot the UFC events, and all those photographs, a percentage goes to, of course, the UFC, but they control it. So it's kind of like, not to say a mafia, but it's about controlling certain things and having a small pool of people shooting it. The difference between someone like me and someone who works for Fox is, if I interview a fighter or something like that, I'm going to ask them real questions. I'm not obligated to ask the questions that are safe. And if I was going to ask some of these guys questions, I'd be asking them some serious stuff. So when you are a freelancer, you have some freedoms, but also you pay the price for it because you don't have normal, necessarily money coming in. And you can piss off someone like Dana White where you call them out on their racism. Like I said, Khabib, because he's Muslim, and because also, let's talk about Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. You have two females that one's a lesbian and one's extremely masculine, to say to lack of a better word. And the thing is that the way Dana is, he's promoted people like Ronda Rousey that looks a certain way. But he hasn't put that kind of money into Amanda Nunes, and I don't think he's putting that kind of money in Cyborg because they don't look a certain way. You understand what I'm trying to say? And then you have someone like Khabib, who's an amazing fighter. I don't know if his record's 25-0 or 20-0. I think it's 25, but don't quote me. Khabib, even though he's huge in Russia and he's starting to get bigger here, it becomes very interesting is how he's going to be promoted. You know what I'm saying? Because Dana's tight with Trump. And even though Trump has said some horrible things, done some horrible things, Dana keeps talking about how Trump is nice to him, so it doesn't really matter what he does. To me, what you do means a lot, even if someone's your friend. Let me just say this. If I have a friend who's getting out of line, they're not my friend if I can't say, hey, you're out of line. And vice versa. If I'm out of line, a real friend's going to say, hey, Kat, you're out of line. That's what real friends do. So I know it's a mutual beneficial relationship they have. They probably, have a really good time together, flirt with some chicks, discuss business and flatter each other till they're blue in the face. But there's bigger things, more important things. But everyone lives their own life and has their own path to walk through. I can't expect Dana to be an honorable man. He is what he is, and he makes a lot of money, and why would he change? There's no benefit for him to change except for his own self-awareness. So, like I said, I love covering things that interest me. I love martial arts. I used to do martial arts. I have major respect for the fighters. But I also have issues with how they're paid, their health insurance, suffering from concussions, how Dana promotes the fights, who's getting paid well and who's just getting screwed over, how they push certain fighters over other fighters. Those things fascinate me, and those are the kind of questions that I'm interested in asking. and also, talking about the bigger issues about racism and sexism and getting better. So to wrap this up, I just hope that if you're a real martial artist or a fan, you start thinking more strategically about why would people want to sow division and make us weaker for the last, 2-3 years? Really hardcore. How would that benefit an opponent to make America weak? I mean, the easiest way I can say this is think about things as like a chess game, or you're in a ring fighting somebody and you're trying to figure out like how to win, and if you can use some of the martial arts and the UFC kind of things you're watching to apply in your life. Because a lot of these guys talk smack to each other to get in each other's head before the fight. They do things in the ring to get in each other's head so they have an advantage. It's the same thing in politics. Okay? It's really beneficial for some countries for America to be very weak. And I don't think a lot of people are thinking strategically how important it is for us to come together. It's not about being right. I don't give a fuck about being right. I've been talking about Trump since 2015. If you check my YouTube channel, you can see videos that I did where I talk about why he wasn't qualified to be president. And it wasn't about like me just talking out of my ass. I was talking about facts. I was talking about the history of when he and his father discriminated against blacks in New York in the 70s. There's so many connections to the mob that he had. And see, the people who just say, it doesn't matter, that's just normal. Blacks can't pay. That is not true. So you have to look at a person's history and seeing what kind of trail they've led. And you have to dig in deeper. Superficially, you might think he's successful. But in actuality, when you start looking at how does he treat his contractors, does he pay them on time? He's been married 3 times. Each time he's cheated on the previous wife. Was he a good father? Not really. He thinks women only should take care of the child rearing. Was he cruel to his sons? You can look that up. Is he a racist? Does he have racist tendencies? Did he say stuff about only people I want to touch my money are Jews? What happened with his casino? See, people have to stop being lazy and actually do research. If you do the research, you'll find it yourself. But listening to people like Joe Rogan or Dana White discounting someone's real pain about racism isn't going to do it. You have to actually listen sometimes with empathy. But like I said, they make so much money they don't care. I get it. Maybe that's one of the issues in life, but I'm really disappointed in them, and I'm disappointed in their fans that just think whatever they say is all right. I look at people that inspire me, and there's a humility and a quest to learn and a openness to get better. And when I look at someone like Bruce Lee or Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali or, oh my God, my brain, Maya Angelou, Angela Davis, all these people, there's millions of them of all ages, all sexes, all nationalities. They strive to tell their truth, and they did it with honor as best as they could. And we have to listen to each other. We have to respect each other. So I hope this makes sense. Thank you guys for watching. And like I said, let's look at this stuff strategically. Who benefits if we fight against each other? And as a little aside, look up Willie Lynch, spelled W-I-L-L-I-E, second word Lynch, L-Y-N-C-H. I might do a video on that. I keep promising I was going to do a video on that. I got to do that shit. It's just that it's really a complicated speech, and I don't like the words in it, but there's a lesson in it to be learned. And it'll help you understand about psychological warfare and how you manipulate people to do things by causing division. And if Joe Rogan and certain people were hip, they'd realize there's a method to the madness of having people fight against each other. It makes you weaker. We're all in the same circle. So let's work together, not against each other, if that makes sense. So this is Kat of Kattalestv. Thanks for watching. This is the latest bedtime stories. And you can find me on Twitter. And if you need clothes, check out my eBay channel. I have some really cool things for sale. It's Kattalestv with a 0 at the end on eBay. Okay? Bye!